Okay, welcome everybody this nice Friday afternoon, getting ready for a long weekend. I do appreciate you coming on. I know how busy you are and won't take a whole lot of time. My name is, as I mentioned earlier, for those who were on, my name is Harry Penn. I am the president and founder of Senior Living Solutions. We are a full service long-term care organization with really, I would say, heavy concentration in the veteran pension for the past 15 years. We have participated in probably over $100 million in paid out benefits in that period of time. We work all over the United States, and fortunately, we've never had a claim denied, which sounds good and it is good, but then again, we don't send anything to the Veterans Administration that we are pretty confident that's not going to get approved or something. So one of the real purposes of this webinar, more than anything, is the obvious, is to introduce ourselves a little bit, but just as important, maybe more importantly, is to get the word out. One of the greatest tragedies about the veterans pension, or aid and attendance, sometimes referred to, is that no one knows about it. And if it wasn't for organizations such as yourself, it's one of the most you would think it was like the combination to Fort Knox. It's just very, very badly marketed throughout the country when it comes to our veteran community. So we appreciate everything that you do as your assisted living or independent living communities or even nursing home communities do for our veteran community. And the best thing you can do, whether they use us or not, is just to let them know that this benefit is here. One of the tragic things, and I get this call all the time, and this is something that you want to kind of log in the back of your head a little bit. When a potential veteran comes into your community, you don't know what they're thinking. No one does, obviously, as to whether or not they're going to, maybe become a resident. And I'll get a call, Mr. Penn, if we knew we could qualify for this pension, we would certainly put down the deposit. So my point is, you always want to make known to a veteran, if there's a possibility, if you find out that they are a veteran, that there is this benefit, because it could make the difference, maybe not in every case, but in many cases, make the difference of them actually coming into a community versus maybe not, or going somewhere else. Also, in your own communities, if you get a little bit proactive about it, because you never know, and I'm sure you could attest to this yourselves, when Mr. and Mrs. Jones come to you and say, hey, we've only got 2 months remaining in our assets and our savings, and we're going to have to look for a less expensive place. So getting the veteran pension just extends the stay. It helps the veteran, obviously, but it also helps you. And I think if you take anything out of this this conversation, this webinar this morning, is that you need to make this known as much as possible. We are full service. We do everything from A to Z. We know the pension service in, out, and over. We average about 90 days in getting the benefit approved. And of course, the VA will pay retroactively back for the time that someone has to wait between the time they apply and the time the award is granted. We've had them come back in 2 weeks, but on average, it's about, I'd say roughly 90 days. The benefit is not chump change. It's a pretty good benefit. Maybe I can get that screen up here and show you exactly what that benefit is. Give me a second here. There we go. You can see 2 married veterans. Now, in my neck of the woods, which is up in North Florida, a place called Destin up on the Panhandle, we have a lot of military, and we do get 2 married veterans from time to time. You can see that's over, $3,200 a month, but on average, you will either get, one of the 4 remaining categories, either the married veteran, which is still $2,400 a month, and this is all tax-free to them. And this is a direct deposit right into their account, just like Social Security. And generally, they would use it to help offset the cost of care, but they're not required to do anything with it if they don't want to, in theory. A single veteran, you can see, is over $2,000 a month. a living veteran that is going into an assisted living, but really he's not going to be getting any care. It's more for his spouse or her spouse. It's 1609. That's not as common, but it does happen. And then, of course, the surviving spouse, which is very common, is $1,318 a month. So as I mentioned, this is not chump change. This can make the difference on top of their normal income. If they're getting $3,000 of income and they're married, we're looking at another, up over $5,000, which makes the difference between them saying yes to you or not. So it's important that they know about it more than anything, and then they can make that decision as to what they want to do. The local VA offices, while I'm on this subject, I'm not going to hit this too hard, but it's important for you to know. The local VA offices are really not geared to help the veteran with aid and attendance benefit. The pension is paid out of 3 different hubs depending on where you live, either Pennsylvania, Minnesota, or Wisconsin, depending on the geographical area that you live in. And those people do know what's going on. And you must, and this is extremely important, you must send to the Veterans Administration when applying for the benefit what is called a fully developed claim, meaning that the veteran or the VA gets every single form, every T crossed, every I dotted, properly filled out, and they get it all at once. It's fully developed. Otherwise, and this is what happens if you go, generally speaking, to a local VA office, if you don't get all the forms and you start to send them piecemeal up to whatever hub you are required to send them to, they'll start dripping on you, and pretty soon you looked up and it's been 6 months or 8 months or a year or better, and still nothing has been resolved. So you've got to, in my opinion, in a situation like this, and I'm a veteran myself, I'm a Vietnam veteran, I hate to say this as a veteran, but you really need to have an advocate in this process. It's not overly difficult, but you are required to jump through some hoops, and you better jump through them, or else you can expect long delays in getting this pension. And that doesn't do anybody any good. You don't want to have to front the money if you're going into an assisted living facility any longer than required. So my personal opinion, and I know this sounds like a little patronizing here, but I'm being as truthful as I can after doing this for 15 years and being a veteran, you must have an advocate to get this process started so that you stand the best chance for a veteran or his spouse to receive this benefit. And there's only 3 qualifications. I think we have them on the next screen, and then we'll open it up to questions. You've got to be a wartime veteran. And for wartime, we're really looking at 3 right now. The remaining veterans that are still living for World War II, all of our World War I guys are gone, and gals. Korea and Vietnam. The Gulf War does apply, but you have to be 65 years of age or older, and the Gulf War started in 1990, and most of our veterans that served during that are under the age of 65. So we're really looking at World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. You have to have served during one of those time zones, meaning that you didn't have to be, I'm a Vietnam veteran, but you didn't have to be in Vietnam as an example. You could have served in Europe. As long as you served during that particular era, you qualify. Same with the spouse. If her husband, widowed spouse, if her husband served during one of those periods of time, she is eligible, provided she did not have a divorce, or there was, that she was married to him when he died, or he was married to her when she died, and they have not remarried unless they remarry another veteran, then they go by the second veteran. By the way, while I'm thinking about this, because I don't want to throw a lot of confusing information to you, we have a webinar, it's only about 30 minutes long, that really explains this whole process, that we would be happy to email to you with our electronic brochure, so that you can not only review this for yourself over and over again till you really become qualified to be able to discuss it, but it also is a great tool to just give to your clients, your prospective families, that they can listen to. It kind of takes the fear and the cobwebs away as to how this whole process works. Okay, so the first qualification is wartime service, have to serve during that particular era. for only 90 days active duty, and one of those days has to be during this service time. Then the activities of daily living, and this is not as dramatic as it would seem if you're familiar with long-term care insurance policies. For example, they're the same activities, but not as dramatic. Bathing can be nothing more than somebody standing by in case someone might slip or fall. They don't have to be physically bathed. Or dressing might be, just a difficult pair of shoes or pressure stockings when it comes to diabetes. Maybe that's all the help they need. Or maybe hygiene, just clipping toenails or brushing hair or washing hair, things like that. So you need two of those. And generally, if they go into an assisted living, that's not a problem. But we can also get them qualified if they're living independently in an independent living communion. Never lose sight of that. There are ways legally to be able to qualify them for independent living as well. So first is wartime service. Then the second one is the need for two activities of daily living where they require assistance. And this is demonstrated through the facility or the community that they go into. What is the community doing for them, or what is the personal caregiver doing for them? And their doctor. The doctor will say, yes, they must live at XYZ community in order to receive assistance in activities of daily living. So the VA will look at both the doctor's report and whatever community or caregiver is providing that assistance. And then the final qualification, and sometimes this does present challenges. I mean, we have to be careful with this. And the VA has put us in a financial box, so to speak, and they will take a look at income and they will take a look at assets. Remember this, it's not how much money you make necessarily, but what are your expenses against what your income is. To illustrate this, let's say somebody makes $25,000 a month in income. Well, when you hear that, you would automatically disqualify them, right? Thinking that's too high. But if they have $25,001 in medical expenses, they're good. So it's the relationship between income and medical expenses. Medical expenses obviously includes the cost of care and anything else that they're paying for out of their own pockets. So somebody, conversely, somebody who earns $2,000 a month, if they have no medical expenses, then the VA will take that $2,000 and reduce their benefit dollar for dollar. So generally that's not the case, but don't let income scare you necessarily. It's weighed against, the cost of services, the cost of the community, and any other medical expenses. And I would say 97% of the time, it's never a problem. Sometimes it is, but generally it's never a problem. And there also are remedies for those people who are, have excessive income beyond what the caregiving costs. The other side of the financial coin are assets. The VA has arbitrarily, no one knows where they get this number, set a figure of $138,000 in liquid assets. By liquid assets, we're talking about IRAs, 401ks, CDs, checking savings, annuities, those kind of things. The home itself, they're living in their own home, is exempt. That is not a countable asset unless it's going to be sold. And then again, we have certain remedies that are legal, that are ethical, that the VA permits. If a client, resident, potential candidate would exceed either the income or the asset limits. And I think one of our strengths in all the people that do what we do, and there's not a whole lot of people who do this, but there are a few. One of our strengths is that we are able to help veterans who may be in a situation where they exceed either the income limit or the asset limit. Don't let that be a deterrent to your veteran communities if you suspect that or you find out that that might be the case. Have them call us, and we can certainly develop certain strategies that would not only preserve those assets if they have excess assets, but also at the same time get them a very much earned benefit. So here's our that's kind of it in a nutshell. It's not much beyond that. That sounds simple as I've simplified it, and it really is. But you better make sure that it goes to the VA in exactly the way they demand it. So here's our contact information. For those of you who may not be able to see the screen, our phone number is 877-896-0181, 877-896-0181. I appreciate everybody's time. There's not much more I can give. I value your time and I don't want to take too much of it. You kind of got an idea of us, and we would love to develop a relationship with you. Give us a call. We'll send you an electronic brochure. You'll get our webinar that explains the whole VA process. You'll get our contact information, our website, and we're also happy to send you some hard brochures so that you can give them to your veteran community when families come to visit you. So I appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you again soon, I hope. Bye now.